Awesome. Welcome to the ACT Committee meeting. It's September 7th at 5:30 p.m. We've got myself, Nick Allen, Mr. Michael Stefano, Ms. Lisa Dorsey, and our department heads are Mike Prone, Bill Mann, and we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Item number 2 is comment, suggestions, petitions by residents in attendance regarding items not on the agenda. Anything today? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 3, which is to discuss changing the home rule language with respect to elected officials holding simultaneous elected positions. And there is an attachment that shows a little bit of that language. So what I've been thinking a lot about is more specifically how we would do this, because there's a lot of implications for what it looks like for council to, should someone resign, let's say we have someone resign in January when they get sworn in. Council would then, I think the way things are now, would appoint a interim. Then there would be a special election at the primary. But at the same time, there could be a regular primary for that same position. And then in November, you'd have the general. That's just a mess. So you could have one mayor, we would appoint another mayor, and the primary would happen and you get another special mayor. And then the general would happen in November. Potentially you could get another mayor. So I've been trying to think how we can make this happen and avoid situations like that. Because I think we've run into trouble with this a little bit because we didn't want to have to go through all that. And thankfully, I don't think we have. But my thinking, I wrote this down, was so we could make it so that an elected official who gets elected to another office has to resign by the time they're sworn in. So that's kind of driving with this. Council would then appoint an interim replacement that serves until January of the following year, which is basically in effect what happened this past time with Mayor Norley. And what that would do, it would allow each party to actually go through a meaningful primary process, do their petitions, get their nominated candidates for the general. And that general would then either be the start of a new term, if it's timed that way, or that would be the start of the interim mayor that would take us to the next election where a new term would actually begin. Does that make sense? That would just prevent that, like, really
I'm not sure that's much different. What's the difference in what happened with this specific, like what's going on right now with Mayor Norley? What would be the difference? I feel like it still would be he's still holding office until January. They're still having I'm confused about the difference.
So the difference is that Mayor Herron did not resign until after some February date. So had she resigned right before, then we would have been in that situation.
Right. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I forgot about that.
So that would kind of take care of that. And then in my mind, you would need some kind of date, you know what I mean? Like in the year where you would move to the next year, if that makes sense. So I looked at the election calendar. And so this year, the first day to circulate petitions was February 17th. So if we made that the cutoff for any situation, so if you were to resign on February 18th of this year, council would, and this is maybe a little bit squirrely, but worth discussing, but council would then appoint an interim. And let's say the balance on that term was like almost 3 years. That would end up, because we're technically in the primary cycle at that point, they would complete that calendar year, another calendar year. But what that would do is that would give the party the time. So February 18th, 2021, they resign. since like the petition process is already underway, they would wait until the next one for the party to start to organize to nominate someone to finish that term. If that makes sense. I should have made like a.
I think I'm following you. I think I'm not sure how much the public would be in a approval or liking the fact that we're appointing somebody who possibly we'd appoint them for 2 years almost, right? So I think the idea of appointing it is that we're just getting somebody in there. We need somebody in there right now to fill the position till the next available primary or election. And I realize that in this case, when Diane Herron left, it was a little bit past that, so it didn't really get filled in, and we just have to wait till her term is up, essentially. But it's a little, it's not as easy. It's not clean, cut and dry. Yeah, let's just do this. It is a little bit gray area there.
I totally agree with you on that. And the way I was thinking about it was like a late February resignation. I feel like it's pretty rare. Because in this case, if someone did get elected to a new job, they'd already be out by, January, whatever, early January. Our interim would be, I guess, a calendar year, which is not too far off what's already happening. So in the case that somebody were to resign, from like February to like late February into like April, May, June, that does make the appointment kind of long. But I mean, we could think about, where in the election calendar we could draw that line. If we want to move it later, like maybe a week before petitions are due. You know what I mean? I'm trying to think like how the party can actually, or the parties can have their time and, organize a meaningful democratic process instead of having the party pick somebody and put them on a ballot for 2 weeks from now. It's the kind of thing I'm trying to avoid. Get a little more.
I wonder how often, I mean, it seems like it's happened 2 times in a row, but I wonder if you took a 10-year snapshot, how often this actually happens. I know it's just happened twice, so it seems like it's fresh on everybody's mind. I'm not sure this is something that happens this often, but I hear what you're saying, and I think that's something we should discuss. I also think maybe even along with what's in the green up there, the not holding multiple positions, where I think the fear is somebody gets elected and they're within their first year term and then they get elected to another office. They don't have to resign, and they could be holding that office simultaneously for the full 3 more years, say. So maybe we could do it where instead of that, it just says, if you pick another office, then you have to end your term within the calendar year that you took. I don't know. That seems a little gray area.
What we could do is we could just, I don't know honestly what happens right now. Somebody just, if I were to resign like like late January or something, I don't know what that process would actually look like. But what we could do is, just to get this rolling, is if we just kind of set it up so that there was this special process that only applied to situations where they got elected to a new. So in that situation, letter F or whatever, then, council will appoint someone through the next swearing-in day. And then we'll just automatically run through a regular petition process, and everything will kind of function normally that way. And we just can touch that other stuff.
I think if seeing it in writing and maybe looking at like a calendar, looking at something, and I think the problem is there's so many like what if like scenarios that we have to like get all the scenarios kind of sussed out so we know what we're actually looking at. Because like we're talking about it, and my brain's like trying to like follow, and it's really difficult to follow with the dates, and also knowing what the election calendar looks like and having all those dates put on a calendar would be helpful to just see them and okay, yes, this is what this would mean, and it's a lot of what ifs.
Is that, Sean, is that something that we could like run by our solicitors maybe? Like if I were to type something up, could they check and make sure that that would work in the first place before we bring it to full council?
.209 and 408 of the charter, so for council and the mayor. Then the second thing we're talking about is how do you fill a vacancy if you want to change any of the language in those sections. So I would draft up some points and run it by Kristen, and then what's the mechanism for actually amending the charter? And it's the same as adopting charter.
So, I mean, yeah, so I can type some stuff up that, I think makes some sense, and we could maybe come up with a few different options to discuss and kind of choose between those options next month in this committee. And then maybe we can make a recommendation, council choose one of those options with like, maybe a visual aid, because it's so hard to verbalize all of these dates.
I know I did say that this doesn't happen, this might not happen as much as we think it does, but if you think about it, at least with council, how many of us were appointed? I was appointed, and Lisa, I thought, were you appointed? I can't remember. No. So there, it happens a lot with council. So I do think maybe having some, it's like a look at it and a fresh look at it, maybe some language might be helpful as well. I don't know if it's funny. I don't think the general public is as concerned with council members as they are with the mayor's office, which I think is a little backwards, but I think that's just the way they perceive roles. So I think we just kind of get it. They pay us no mind as much of that. But yeah, I would be open to like, you have some stuff kind of spelled out and taking a look at and discussing it next month. I think that would be, right now we're a little bit too in the mud with it. So
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I definitely support keeping the rules for the mayor and council the same, because I think it's all, so we should treat them similarly. Yes. Probably wouldn't hurt to have that in there. That's a good solicitor catch. They will definitely get that for us. I appreciate that. Write this down so I don't forget. Any other discussion on item number 3? Great, we can move on to number 4, which is to approve our minutes from last month. Were there issues?
I wasn't in attendance, so I have to abstain.
Sure. All right, cool, sounds good. So we're good on those. Is there any other business tonight? 5:44, we will adjourn. Thank you.